Hello and welcome to Keep Written Sewing. So today I'm going to show you how to make the Christine dress. Now it's called the Christine dress because I've named it after my mum. It reminded me of a dress that she wore when I was very young. It was a pale green colour, I think, and it was buttoned down the front. So I got my inspiration for this dress from that one. So it's a fairly easy dress to make. You do need a few special skills, I say, including how to hand stitch with a blind stitch. Now all the instructions for that are in your instruction booklet, but there are instructions to do other things like buttonholes and how to insert a concealed zip in the Keep Written sewing guide. Not that we're doing a zip today, but all the information is in there. Very useful tips on how to do different things. So enjoy reading that, put that to one side. So let's get on with the Christine dress. So we start with putting the darts into the front and to the back bodice. So that's pieces 1 and 2. So you need to cut 2 of the front bodice and 1 on the fold on the back bodice. So move them out of the way. So I've already marked my darts onto the back of my fabric. Now if you're not sure how to do darts, there is a section, let me find it, in the Keep Written sewing guide on how to sew darts. There's also a tutorial online on the website, so check that out so you know how to do darts. So I won't go into it in too much detail today. Let me start with the front bodice. You can see my marks on here. Now on the center line I'm just going to pinch that up, and we want to fold along there. Just pin that in place. So these other lines should match up on either side. Now I'm going to do a stitch all the way along this line here. So I'm going to do a back stitch at the start to secure it, then go all the way down. I'm going to run off the end of the fabric. So we don't do a back stitch here at this point. We run it off, leave a long tail of threads, and then I'll tie them together. So let's go over to my machine. We're going to do a back stitch there, and then go all the way along that line. Just move that pin out of the way, and then all the way down and off the edge of that fabric. Let me put my foot up. Now we want a long piece of thread there. Where's my snips? There we are. Snip that there. Then we come over to here and we'll tie, get those ends out, tie those two together so we get a nice tight point on the dart. We can snip those ends off and the ends on the other side. And now we just need to press that. So if you have a tailor's ham, these are very useful. Place that underneath, so on the curve, and then give that a good press. Give it maybe a bit of steam if you can. And you're pressing these darts. Actually, we're pressing it towards the center. Oh, I should get my pressing mat out. Bring that one up as well. So let's press the dart towards the center, and then we'll grab our tailor's ham, put that on there, and we'll just give that a press as well. Bit of steam. So you have a nice sharp dart there, and that gives it a bit of shape on the bodice. So do the same on the other darts, and we'll come back in a minute. Right, so now that you've sewn your darts in your back bodice and your front bodices, you can join them along the shoulder and along the side seam. So place your back bodice facing up and your front bodices facing down on top, and you want to pin across the shoulder and along the side seam. So let me pin that in there. And then pin along the side here as well. So right sides together and pin all the way down the side, and do the same for the other side as well. Now I'm going to do a straight stitch throughout this, but you can do whatever stitch you want. If you want to do a French seam, if you have a lighter fabric and you fancy doing a French seam, then do that. It's entirely up to you. You know, it's your creation. You do what you like. So I'm just going to do a straight stitch because that's quite common. Then do the other side as well. Let me get my piece the right way round. So we pin together the side. So just pin along the shoulder seam as well. If I can get my pin in there. God, it's fiddly. Shouldn't be fiddly. So that's all pinned together. So I'm going to stitch all the way along the side seam and across the shoulder seam on both sides. So once you've sewn all that together, I'm just going to snip my threads off here so they're not dangling around. There we go. I'm just throwing them on the floor. Hopefully somebody picked them up later for me. So once you've sewn all that together, you just need to give the seams a good press. I'll bring this one back up again because I don't want to ruin my table. So let me move it that way. So give it a good press. Open your seam up if you can, and press that open. And then do the other side. Where is it? There we go. And I do the shoulder seams, if you can. And where's the other one? There. Okay, so now we've joined all that together, we are now going to do the skirt. So now we come on to the skirt piece, and this is piece number 7, and you should have cut out 4 pieces from your fabric. Throw that over there. And so we just need to join them all together at the side seam. So let me grab 2 of these. So the right sides together, you want to pin all the way down the side. and then do a line of stitching all the way down. Hopefully they've all been cut the same length. Now you need to leave it open, obviously, so once you've done this one, add the other two on. So that's pinned all the way down to the bottom there. So now we'll just do a line of stitching all the way down that seam there. Now don't forget, we're doing a 1 centimetre seam allowance throughout this pattern. So that's your first two skirt pieces on. Now just need to add the other two. So in the same way, right sides together. Where's the other piece? There we are. Take another one. Take another one and lay that piece. Where's the top? There we are. On top. Right sides together. So just pin all the way down that side there. Do a stitch again all the way down that side there. That's all your skirt pieces put together. It should all be facing the right way and one long skirt. So now we have to press all those seams, of course. So go and make yourself a cup of tea and I'll do the pressing. See you in a bit. So welcome back, hope you enjoyed your tea. That was nice and quick. So I'm all pressed. All the skirt pieces are pressed, and now we need to attach the skirt to the bodice. So lay your skirt out facing upwards, and then your bodice piece you want to lay on top face down, so the right sides are together, and start pinning that all the way along. And make sure that your seams match up. So your skirt seam here matches up with side seam there. So it might be a good idea to pin all those pieces together first. So you line your seams up. So that one goes over to here. So once you've got all your seams all lined up, you can then pin the rest of the dress. So pin that to the end. So all pinned together, and now we just need to do a line of stitching all the way along there. Make sure your material is lying nice and flat when you sew it together. Okay, so that's all sewn together. Now, of course, we need to give that a good press. Make another cup of tea. So that's all pressed, and now it's starting to look a little bit more like a dress. Not quite there yet. We need to move on to the front facing. So now we move on to the facing pieces. So you need to cut 2 of these out of fabric and 2 out of interfacing. So I've applied the interfacing on these already, as you can see. Now I've used black interfacing because I've ran out of white interfacing. I don't think it shows through too much, but I would have preferred white interfacing, I guess. But anyway, I haven't got any. So once you've applied the interfacing, I've marked on this line here, which is on your pattern piece. Now this will be where you're going to fold the facing later on. But first we need to prepare the facing pieces. So on the curved edge here, let me do one at a time, move that piece out the way. On the curved edge, also need my pressing mat, bring that up. As I was saying, on the curved edge here, just want to fold that over about half a centimetre all the way down, and then once you've folded that over half a centimetre, fold it over again about 1 centimetre so that raw edge is enclosed. Now this is going to be on the inside of the dress. So once we've done that all the way down the length of the facing, once that's pressed, we also need to do the top up here. So we'll fold that over 5 millimeters and then a centimetre, and then we'll do a stitch all the way along and down that edge there. So let me get on with pressing this and then come back to me in a minute. Another cup of tea. Is it time for another cup of tea? Maybe a biscuit this time. It's going to take a little bit of time. So enjoy. Hiya, welcome back. Hope you had a nice little break. I saw one of you had a glass of wine there. I've finished this edge here, so that's been folded over and then stitched. So that's all along that edge that has the curve and across the top here. I'm just going to trim these threads out of the way. So that's one facing and that's the other done. Trim that. So both facings are now done and ready to go onto the dress. So let me get my dress back here. Let me find my center front. Here's one of them. So with right side, let me move that one out of the way. I do need more room here. Right, so with right sides together, oh my god. So this is the front, the center front of the dress. So with right sides together, pin the facing onto your dress along the center front. So let me grab my pins. This goes all the way down to the bottom. Nearly there. So we need to sew a line of stitching. Now on the pattern piece there is a small dot. You need to mark that off onto here, which I can just about see there. And we're going to stitch from that small dot all the way down to the bottom of the facing. So line up where the dot is and start to sew. So that's sewn in place there. So what we need to do now is just trim that seam allowance a bit. So a couple of millimeters away from that stitching line is where you want to just trim your seam allowance. Nearly there, up to the top. Cool, that's done. So that's in there. Now just give that a little bit of a press. You want to press, just press that down there. So grab my pressing mat, press that there. So nearly there. Or press it all the way up to the top. So once you've pressed that, you need to fold the facing back on itself. So you've got it laid open like this. Now fold it back. So where that line is, the line that you copied off from the pattern, that's your fold line. So you need to fold back against there and give that a press as well. So press all the way down there. I really do need more space. If anybody wants to fund me and buy me a new studio, I really would appreciate it, because I haven't quite got enough room here. So keep going down that fold line till you reach the bottom. Nearly that. There we go. There we go. So once you've done that, you need to, this at the top here, just pin the facing to the dress, and it should go along this curve here, the neck line. So just pin that in place. So now you need to do a line of stitching along this curve, so all the way down here until you reach that small dot again. So I need to mark that on there again, but imagine there's a small dot there. You go back to the dot where you sewn to before. And then, where are we? There we are. Then unpin that. Well, I should have unpinned it as I was sewing, but I'm terrible. Then just trim the seam allowance again on that piece there. So again, just a few millimeters away from where you just stitched, you just want to trim around there. So turn it out the right way. It's the magic moment, hopefully. So make sure you poke out that corner there, and then give it another press all the way down the front there, and remembering where your fold line is. So that's your front facing done. So just repeat that onto the other side, and then we're ready to go on to the next stage. So now you've done the facing, you want to attach the facing to the shoulder seam. So at the top of your facing, I'm just stitching the facing to the shoulder seam. Now you can do a blind stitch if you want. It's on the inside, so nobody's really going to see it, so you can do whatever stitch you want to do, as long as you can't see it on the outside. So I'm just going to stitch along the top of the facing there to that shoulder seam. So you don't have to use a blind stitch if you don't want to. You can just do any stitch as long as the facing is held in place on that shoulder seam, and that your stitches don't show on the outside. So there we go. I'm just gonna, oh god. So there we go. Just tie that off, and then do the other side as well. So that's stitched in place, and now we shall move on to the collar. So we move on to the collar now. Now this is piece number 5, and whether you choose a curved collar or a pointed collar, it's completely up to you. For today I've chosen the curved collar. So you should have 2 pieces of fabric and 1 piece of interfacing. Now I've already interfaced one of my collar pieces. Move that out of the way. And the first thing you need to do is to fold up your collar on this bottom edge here. You need to fold up the collar by 1 centimetre. So just going to press that up. Try not to burn myself. Okay. And then with right sides together, you want to place that interfaced collar piece onto the uninterfaced collar piece. So pin that all around. So now you want to do a line of stitching all the way around. So starting from where the fold is here on the interface piece, go all the way around till you get to the other side. So then you want to trim that seam allowance to about 3 millimeters all the way around. Okay, so all the way around. So we get down to here. Just cut that thread off there. And then you want to turn the collar to the right side. Cut that one. Now of course, if you've got pointy collars, you want to poke out your pointy bits. As I'm doing a curved collar, don't need to. So turn that. Still need to poke it out a little bit. So that's your collar. So once you've done that, you just want to press the collar. Make sure it's all lined up nicely and all poked out. Now if you want to, you can top stitch around the edge of your collar. So that's your collar piece done. Now you need to add this to the neckline of your dress. So now we come to attaching the collar to the dress. Now you need to mark where your center is on the neck. There are notches, I think, on the pattern. So that's the center of your dress, and you've got your center of your collar here. So with the uninterfaced piece of your collar, that's this bit, you need to place on the wrong side of the dress. So this is right side to wrong side. So right side of the collar goes to the wrong side of the dress, and you need to match it at the center there. So pin that in place. And then go along and pin the rest of the collar in place. Now, once you're all pinned in place, you want to do a line of stitching from one end of the collar onto the dress to the other end there. Take your time over this. It may be a little bit tricky, so take a little bit of time. Okay, so hopefully your collar has gone in okay. Now on the other side, remember we did a little fold there on the interface piece. Well, that now goes down over that seam we just sewn. So you want to pin that in place. So once you've pinned your folded edge all the way along there, it covers up that seam you've just done. You want to do a blind stitch all the way along here. Now, I haven't got the time to do that right now, so I'll do it tonight in front of the TV. So, job for me tonight. So then we'll move on to the sleeves. So now we move on to the sleeves, and first of all we need to prepare the cuffs. So this is piece number 6, and you should have cut out 4 pieces of fabric and 2 pieces of interfacing. So these are my 2 interface pieces, and these are my 2 non-interfaced pieces. So first, move that out of the way. Like with the collar, we just need to fold the bottom edge of the cuff up 1 centimeter. And we do the same on the other one. It's about 1 centimeter. So you need to take your uninterfaced piece and place it right side up, and then take your interface piece and place it on top, so that the right sides together, and then pin that in place. You need to sew along this pointed edge, and only this pointed edge of the cuff. Now, I did make a mistake and I went down the side as well, but I've got rid of that now, and I have just sewn a line of stitching along this bit here, so up to the point, along here, up to the point, and down there. So you can now turn this and give it a press. So that's pressed like that. Do the same on the other one. And then grab your sleeve, which is here, and I think right sides together, pin the cuff to the sleeve. Then you want to do a line of stitching all the way along there. And then with right sides together, match up your seams and pin in place. You don't have to have the cuff, you could just hem the sleeve if you want to. So now that's pinned in place, you want to do a line of stitching all the way along the sleeve, into the cuff, and down to where the folded edge is there. So once that's sewn in place, you want to fold the cuff back and then once that's folded back like that, that fold that you made on the interface piece, you want to hide that seam there. So like you did on the collar, you just want to fold that over, pin that in place, get rid of that thread, fold that in place, and then you want to blind stitch once again all the way around your cuff there on the inside. Now I think that's another job to do in front of the television tonight, so I'm just going to pin that for now. Once that's all pinned, do a blind stitch all the way around, covering up that seam, and then that's your cuff done. So turn, once all the blind stitching is done, turn your sleeve to the right way round. So that's your cuff, and then just fold that back. Of course I haven't blind stitched it, so it's a little bit tricky for me, but you get the idea. You would then just want to press that there so the cuff stays flat, and then it's time to insert your sleeve, which is fun. So now we come on to inserting the sleeve into the dress. So where is my armhole? There we are. So the dress needs to be inside out, and your sleeve right way out, and then insert your sleeve into the armhole. Line up your side seam and your sleeve seam, and then pin that in place, and then match the notches that you've obviously copied off from your pattern, and then ease the sleeve in. And just one more pin there, and so we'll put this into the machine. There we go, last one, and then we'll do a line of stitching all the way around the sleeve. I'm going to start underneath the sleeve at the side seam, pop that in there, make sure your fabrics are nice and flat, and then make sure you take out all of your pins, because you don't want to be pinned when you put it on, especially around the arm. So they're all out. So turn that to right side out. Where are we? There we go. And the sleeve is in, I can confirm. So there's the front. Obviously I still got work to do on this dress. So there's the sleeve. It's looking good. That's not badly put in. So you just want to press that seam, and if you have a tailor's ham, this is where it comes in very useful. This is where it comes in handy, and you want to have a nice sharp seam there. So I'm just going to go around and press that, and then we'll come on to doing the hem. So now we come on to the hem. So open up your facing at the bottom here, like this. And you want to press the hem up by 1 centimetre. So I'm not going to go all the way around, I'll just show you how to do it from here. So just press that up 1 centimetre. And then once that's pressed up 1 centimetre, press it up again 2.5 centimetres. Where's my tape measure? There we are. It's on the floor. So take that up 2.5 centimetres. That's 3, so that's a bit too much. So 2.5 centimetres, that's about right. So of course, follow that all the way around your hem, press that down. Now, you can either do a straight stitch along here, which is fine, or you can do a blind stitch. Again, if you've got a blind stitch foot on your machine, you can use that to do the hem. So once you've gone around folding it up 1 centimetre and then 2.5 centimetres, fold the facing back to where it was, to here, and then you just want to do some stitches along the bottom here and up the side there. And then we come on to the buttonholes. Now, there is a section in the Keep Britain sewing guide on how to do buttonholes, and it's no different to that. So let me grab my pattern. So my pattern has on it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buttonholes. So place your line on your fold line onto your fold line, and you can see where the buttonholes should be placed. So mark with chalk, if you got it, where your buttonholes are. So I'm going to go on the bottom line there. So place a mark there, if I can, and then up. That is, if you want to measure it rather than use that, let me find my tape measure again, it's on my lap. So your buttonhole is about 1.5 centimetres in from that fold line, and then the first one is 18.5 centimetres down from the top, although there's seam allowance, so that would be 17.5, and then they are every 14 centimetres. But mark your buttonholes and then make your buttonholes on your machine, then add your buttons. So that's it really, that's the dress done, although mine has a lot more work to be doing to it. I have a lot of blind hemming to do, so I'll be watching a lot of TV tonight, no doubt, to finish it off. But hopefully got an idea of how it all comes together, and it is a lovely dress, perfect for the summer. And I have one sleeve missing, so I'll put the other sleeve in as well, and that's it, all done. Hope you've enjoyed that tutorial. Let us know of any feedback you have, anything you would like to see. If I haven't explained some of the bits enough, please let me know, and I'll maybe do another video to explain things a little bit clearer. But you have the instructions, hopefully they're clear, and hopefully this video helped you. So thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye.